everyone. Welcome back to Reddit Affair Diaries. How's your day going so far? I hope it's been great, but if not, don't stress. You're in the perfect spot to relax and dive into some juicy relationship stories. There's always something new and unexpected waiting around the corner here. Before we jump in, leave a comment and share something good from your day. Let's keep the good vibes going and start this story together.
This Reddit story from r/infidelity reveals that the OP's wife has been cheating on him with their neighbor. It all began 3 years ago when we moved into our new house. Everything seemed perfect at the time. My wife, our kids, and a fresh start in a beautiful neighborhood. We quickly became close to our neighbors. Both of our families were far from relatives, so it felt comforting to find friends right next door. Holidays, birthdays, and weekend barbecues were all shared together. We felt like one big extended family. But lately, things had started to feel off. My wife, who used to be the warm center of our home, had grown distant. At first, I tried to chalk it up to stress. We both worked from home, and with 2 young kids, life could be demanding. But even when the house was quiet, she seemed emotionally distant, as if her mind was always somewhere else. She started avoiding physical intimacy too. Nights that used to end with laughter, pillow talk, and cuddling now felt cold and distant. She'd roll over, pretending to sleep, leaving me alone with my thoughts. What hurt the most wasn't the lack of intimacy. It was the absence of her presence, the emotional void that had crept into our relationship. I felt like I was losing her, and I couldn't understand why. Our neighbor, a man I had come to call a friend, had also started working remotely. His wife worked a hybrid schedule, often leaving the house 3 days a week. That's when I began to notice something peculiar. My wife's daily routine started to shift. Around lunchtime, she would leave the house, always under the guise of running errands. Groceries, post office runs, small tasks that didn't seem out of the ordinary. But it was the timing that caught my attention. Like clockwork, every time my wife left, my neighbor's car disappeared from his driveway too. It wasn't an everyday thing at first, but it became frequent enough that I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. They would both be gone for roughly the same amount of time and return around the same time. At first, I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it was just a coincidence. But the more I noticed it, the harder it became to ignore. Every morning, I would take our youngest to daycare while my wife and our neighbor dropped off the older kids at the bus stop. They saw each other every morning, and I started to wonder if that was the beginning of something more than just small talk. 2 months ago, I couldn't hold it in any longer. The doubts, the suspicions, it all became too much. One night, after the kids had gone to bed, I confronted my wife. I asked her, point blank, why their cars always seemed to leave and return at the same time. My heart was pounding in my chest as I waited for her response. She looked at me, eyes wide with surprise, and brushed it off as a coincidence. She seemed genuine, and part of me wanted so badly to believe her. So I did. I left it alone. For a while, things seemed to improve. She didn't run errands as frequently, and when she did, my neighbor's car stayed parked in the driveway. His wife had also stopped going into the office as much, working from home full-time. I told myself I had been paranoid, that my insecurities had gotten the best of me. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe the emotional distance between my wife and me had nothing to do with our neighbor at all. But then last Saturday happened. Started as a normal day. I had just finished a round of golf with some friends, and we headed to the neighbor's house for drinks. We were all good friends, my neighbor, his wife, and the other couple from down the street. The kids were playing together in the backyard, and the sun was setting on what felt like an ordinary evening. As the night wore on and the alcohol flowed, my neighbor started making some offhand comments that didn't sit right with me. He kept bringing up how my wife gags when she gives oral. It wasn't just a passing comment either. He pressed the issue like he knew something that he shouldn't. At first, I tried to laugh it off, convincing myself he was just being drunk and inappropriate. But his words kept echoing in my mind long after I went home. The next morning, as I sat at the breakfast table, my head pounding from the hangover, I couldn't shake the conversation from the night before. I finally turned to my wife and asked her, why would he keep bringing up that you gag? He acted like he knew something, like he's experienced it Her reaction hit me like a punch to the gut. She froze. For a long, agonizing moment, she just stared at me, eyes wide and unblinking, like a deer caught in headlights. I could almost see her mind racing, trying to come up with something to say. Eventually, she shrugged and said she didn't know why he would joke about something like that. She insisted she hadn't told anyone about it and brushed it off as him being weird. Then, as if trying to lighten the mood, she added, if I were going to cheat, it wouldn't be with him. He's a nerd. Her words didn't bring the relief I had hoped for. Instead, they left me feeling even more unsettled. The way she said it, the casual dismissal of the idea, it didn't feel like the reassurance I needed. Instead, it felt like she was deflecting, like she was trying to steer the conversation away from something she didn't want to confront. And so here I am, sitting with this gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach, unable to shake the thought that something is wrong. I want to believe her. I want to believe that I'm overthinking things, that my insecurities are getting the best of me again. But every time I close my eyes, I see the look on her face when I asked her about that comment. I can't ignore the pit in my stomach, the tightness in my chest that keeps whispering, something is wrong. I've always been the type to trust my gut. It's never led me astray before, but now the doubt is eating away at me. I look at my wife and I want to believe she's the woman I married, the woman I've built a life with, the mother of my children. But I can't shake the feeling that there's a part of her that I don't know anymore. I've thought about confronting her again, about pushing for the truth, but part of me is terrified of what I might find. What if she's been lying to me all along? What if the life we've built together, the family we've created, is built on a foundation of secrets and betrayal? I've considered talking to the neighbor's wife, but that feels like a dangerous move. What if I'm wrong? What if my paranoia ends up destroying not just my marriage, but theirs too? I don't know what to do. I'm stuck in this limbo of doubt and uncertainty, unable to move forward but too afraid to confront the truth head-on. Every day feels like a battle between my heart and my mind, and I'm not sure which one to listen to anymore. All I know is that I can't keep living like this. I can't keep pretending that everything is fine when my gut is screaming at me that something is terribly, terribly wrong.
Advice for OP. It sounds like you're going through a really tough time right now, and it's understandable that you're feeling lost. When trust starts to erode in a relationship, it's incredibly painful, and the uncertainty you're experiencing seems overwhelming. The doubts you have are valid. It's important to listen to your intuition, but also to gather clarity before making any decisions that could have long-lasting effects. Before jumping to conclusions, it may be helpful to communicate openly and honestly with your wife. Tell her how you're feeling, not just about the specific moments that made you suspicious, but also about the distance you've sensed between you two. Express your feelings calmly and without accusing her. Sometimes, issues like emotional detachment and shifts in behavior come from personal struggles, stress, or a breakdown in communication rather than infidelity. If you feel like the conversation doesn't resolve your doubts, you might consider seeking professional guidance. Couples counseling could offer a neutral space for you both to talk through what's been going on, allowing for deeper conversations without things spiraling into blame or defensiveness. A counselor could help you both understand the changes in your relationship and work through them, whether it's rebuilding trust or addressing emotional issues that might have gone unspoken for too long. Lastly, take care of your emotional well-being. This situation is weighing heavily on you, and it's important to take steps to manage your stress. Whether it's talking to a trusted friend, journaling, or finding time for self-care, make sure you're looking after yourself as you navigate this. Only through calm reflection and open communication will you find the path forward, whatever that may be.